Planet Earth. In 4,500 million years, our world has gone through many natural changes, and due to its diverse regional climates has been able to support a variety of life, including humans. Now the planet is changing once again, but on an unprecedented scale. Is this in part or solely down to human influence? There are many heated disagreements amongst climate change deniers and alarmists, but science moves forward by creating these challenges through debate in order to improve understanding. In order to critique skepticism, one must address common climate questions. Does anybody agree? Hasn't climate always changed? Is climate change a global conspiracy? Can we really afford to tackle it? And has climate change stopped? While there may be a divide between climate skeptics and scientists, between the latter there's practically no disagreement that climate change is happening and that it's serious. The recent IPCC survey of 12,000 peer-reviewed climate science papers also found that 97% agreed that recent climate change is human-induced. Skeptics are much different. There are different types of argument and levels of sophistication to get their views across, but a lot of the time they cross over and share multiple categories. Types of argument include uninformed, misinformed, cherry-picking, climate myth, and non-scientific, and their level of sophistication can be silly, naive, specious, and scientific. A lot of the time, scientific fact is absent. A popular contention to skeptics is that the medieval warm period was warmer than it is today, and was followed quickly by the Little Ice Age. The medieval warm period was a time when Vikings were able to settle and raise crops in Greenland, and as the period ended, so did their occupation. These changes were caused by the sun going through a warmer phase or slight variations in the Earth's orbit, leading to gradual warming or cooling over hundreds or thousands of years. So what do climate skeptics have to say about this debate?
Do you believe man-made climate change is happening?
Absolutely not.
Well, I'm not sceptical about climate change at all. Climates always change. They always have, and they always will.
It seems that skeptics agree because the medieval warm period happened long before the Industrial Revolution. Recent warming is not unusual, and hence must be natural, not man-made. Do climate scientists disagree with this? Climate scientists do agree with the medieval warm period being warmer than today. However, the planet as a whole was not warmer. Large parts were cool. If only Europe is observed, skeptics are intentionally cherry-picking the data for their case. Again, skeptics observe only former periods when the sun and climate moved together, ignoring data from the last few decades where the two are moving in opposite directions. None of this is good science. However, let's not be too harsh on the climate skeptics. They don't all cherry-pick and believe common climate myths, as Benny Pizer, director of the Global Warming Policy Foundation, tells us.
You accept it?
Well, we certainly accept that humans have a contribution to the warming.
There's been virtually no change in temperature since 1997, and if anything, temperatures are cooling. Skeptics believe this is proof that global warming is not driven by human-induced CO2, the view that climate scientists advocate. However, if we focus on the bigger picture and exclusively on global surface temperatures, the warming trend for 1997 to 2012 is approximately 0.11 to 0.12 degrees centigrade per decade. This is not a climate change conspiracy. These figures suggest that global warming is driven by human-induced CO2. The bottom line is that short-term trends are not your friends when talking about long-term climate change. I wish it had, but it hasn't. Nonetheless, climate skeptic Joseph Bast of the Heartland Institute says that national snow and ice data center records show conclusively that in April 2009, Arctic sea ice extent had indeed returned to and surpassed 1989 levels. If we look at the point highlighted, you can see that yes, the sea ice in February was actually greater in 2009 than in 1989. But if you look at the entire year, it's clear that sea ice has decreased substantially by 2009, with this trend continuing up until the present. Further evidence suggests that even in the northern hemisphere, where the medieval warm period was most visible, temperatures are now beyond those experienced during medieval times. This was also confirmed by a major paper from 78 scientists around the world in 2013. So even though temperatures at the Earth's surface have been rising steadily, the total average temperature, including underseas, has been heading upwards at speed with no sign of slowing. There are several responses to this question. Primarily, we need to wake up and take the debate seriously. We need to stop burying our heads in the sand because we'd rather not think about the really freaking scary what-ifs. Ask yourself, are you sure you understand the scale of the problem? As in life, the future of climate change is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. This would be worrying if climate modeling, which is backed by thousands of observations, didn't form a reliable guide to future climate change. Yet, Freeman Dyson points out that models are full of fudge factors that are fitted to the existing climate, so the models more or less agree with the observed data. Then again, models used to predict future climate do accurately map past changes. If they get the past right, there's no reason to think their predictions would be wrong. Even when models run optimistic assumptions about cloud cover, carbon cycle, and solar output, the conclusion is clear. Human activity is warming the planet. We can't know precise details of what will happen to the planet as climate changes, but we can make adjustments in our lives to benefit from a brighter future. Men argue, nature acts is an appropriate statement for today's world. For example, if money was diverted, God forbid, away from fossil fuel industries and instead spent on scientific advancement, renewable power and greener transport, it would enhance economies whilst creating jobs. Do we need to wait for our question to be answered before we act?